Good morning, folks. I expect veteran observers to find numerous reasons to like today's video, and for new viewers to be a bit confused. But we'll get it straightened out by the end. We're starting with the last 24 hours on our star over at spaceweathernews.com. And we find the coronal holes entering the departing half of the Earth-facing longitudes. It's the right side of the sun from our perspective. Another solar wind intensification is likely from them tomorrow or Tuesday, but right now the stream is stabilizing at slightly intensified levels, allowing for the magnetic field of Earth to handle the lower variation with less instability. It was a lighter day seismically, but one that has North America under a bit of a swarm with above-average rumbles in Canada to boot. Let's go to the science articles and begin with the backstory that we've been excited that for the first time ever, solar particle forcing is going to go into climate models. Those who have opted to use this data set early are finding solar control of the climate, and 100% of the new papers since 2017, still blaming humans for climate change, have opted to ignore this data set for now. But we've also made extensive commentary on the failure of even the irradiance component in isolation, let alone its dominance over particle forcing in the models. And here, they're eyeing an advancement with better account of flaring. Veteran observers, this would be the major issue where solar irradiance drops out inappropriately during major solar flares because basically they don't know what they're doing. Or maybe now they do. Back to the particle forcing, though. In terms of the energy coupled to our geomagnetic and geoelectric systems, the ionosphere and ground serve as the ceiling and the floor, where current descends in high-pressure fair weather and returns upward in low cells, volcanoes, earthquake energetic release, and in lightning. That's what we've got today, and even though the math, remote sensing, and everything else told them this would happen, they've actually found a way to monitor it in real time. The ground flash, the electromagnetic field generation, and the Joule heating effect directly upwards to the ionosphere above. A new paper shows a tremendously bad bit of news on the ocean front. We've got a consistent and firm Arctic freshwater pathway south into the Atlantic, non-dependent on Greenland ice sheet changes, and as we recall September's top story and how it's the cherry on top of a flurry of confirmations that this planet has mechanisms to beat back rapid temperature shifts, it's not just due to shutdown of ocean currents like the Gulf Stream, which most people have at least heard of in the Ice Age discussion, but it's the overturning circulation as well, and we have perhaps an even stronger confirmation today to top the top story from September. This one tips the scales slightly as it links the coupling to the subpolar gyre in terms of bringing on rapid cooling and glacial conditions. Last but not least, folks, it's not as outwardly blatant as the story 2 days ago calling out a specific magnetic field change acceleration, the worst news of the month, but it's discussing the energetic electron precipitation, which should be ultimately tied to solar activity. However, even as the sun has begun to weaken from its 1900s grand solar maximum, the electrons have continued to increase, and they have no idea why, or so they say. Well, I have an idea. Feel free to pause the video if the pattern and cyclic repetition of the magnetic excursions don't immediately jump out and slap you in the face. Every 10 to 15,000 years, the stable field of Earth starts changing faster and faster and has an excursion, usually with terrible consequences for the biosphere and the climate. If we ignore the most flawed of the isotope dating techniques, it's actually closer to a 12 to 13,000 year cycle, so we are about due. And just as before, our field was very stable and strong for a long time, thousands of years. Then, in the same year as the Great Carrington Event supersolar storm, the magnetic poles began to shift and the field began to weaken. From 1859 to 2000, we lost about 10% of the field, 10% in 150 years. But in 2010, that number was updated to 15%. It's a much faster jump, indicative of an acceleration. And again, just 2 days ago, we learned that another acceleration is underway, traceable from the satellites to the core mantle boundary. Yeah, I think I know why the electrons are continuing to increase, and it's not going to stop either. We greatly appreciate your support. This is the purpose of this channel and our website, our books, our app, to lay out and describe and track these processes and changes and where they're all heading. We've got your wind maps and shots of our star to close, and of course we'll do this all again tomorrow, right here, but right now it's 5 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.